What is going on, Dominators? Rico Garcia here with yet another amazing episode for your viewing and listening pleasure. And today is going to be a really interesting one because we're going to be joined by Coral Martin, which happens to be a female restoration business owner, as well as a plumbing business owner under the franchise of One Tom Plumber. Now, some of you may have caught her little cameo that she did on one of our previous episodes, and I just found that her story was not only so interesting, but also so inspirational that I wanted to have an entire episode dedicated to her story to hopefully inspire some of us in the restoration arena, some of the women in restoration, as well as some of the employees out there, some of the workers out there that are maybe listening to the show and they want something more. They want to go ahead and take that next step and into the entrepreneurial space. So we're going to be covering quite a bit. Not only are we going to be covering the success that she's had just shy of over a year of being in business, earning multiple millions of dollars, not only in plumbing, but also in the restoration side of the business. And we're going to be diving into some of her key philosophies on what the real keys to attracting some of the best talent in your local area, how to overall look at business and some of the keys that have really made her successful and have contributed to this overall amazing growth in, like I said, just over a year. So I think that this episode is going to be one that you are really going to enjoy. So without further ado, let's jump into the show.
Welcome to the Restoration Domination Podcast, where you learn actionable advice that moves the needle and helps service-based businesses dominate. Here's your host, Rico Garcia Jr.
All right, Dominators, what's going on? Rico Garcia here with another amazing episode. Coral, welcome to the show. Are you ready to help us dominate?
I am. Hell yeah.
Let's do it. Awesome. Cool. So do me a favor, fill in some of the gaps on my intro. For those that may not be familiar with the name, maybe they missed our last cameo that you did on one of our previous episodes along with Rocky from One Tom Plumber. Fill in some of the gaps on the intro. Let us know who you are and what it is that you do.
So my name is Coral Martin. I'm the owner of One Tom Plumber Space Coast. I am a first-year business owner, a new One Tom Plumber franchise that just came into the organization in 2022. So we've been open for just a little over a year. We are one of the top performing franchises in the country right now, which we're super proud of. We were one of the first down here in Florida. We finally have some friends that are signing on and going to become our neighbors down here. So I spent about 10 years in the restoration industry. I worked for a very large commercial contractor that worked in 43 states all across the country. And my partner at the time, him and I kind of ran tag team on restoration and reconstruction. We both decided, kind of outgrew our positions and decided that it was time for something more. And that's when we found One Tom Plumber. And that kind of started our journey. And we've been very successful along the road. It's been such a game changer for us in our business and something that we just love to be a part of.
That's awesome. So talk to us. We were talking off camera a little bit about the shift from, employee to now business owner. And I want to definitely get into, and for those listening, this is going to be one of these things where you're not going to want to skip ahead, and because we don't want you to miss anything of what we're talking about, because the One Tom Plumber combo along with the restoration, we're going to talk about that and how that's genuinely simplified the business as a general whole. But I want to get some additional insights and some perspective as to, what that shift was like from employee to entrepreneur, having your own ship, if you will. And, kind of like what your messaging is for, for people that are aspiring to make that next move. We both have a soft spot for these people, right? The people that want to, go off and do their own thing. Talk to us about that journey for you and what that was like.
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously I was an employee for a very long time, and then kind of, transpired into this position. And during that, I saw a lot of the struggles that employees had because that's where I've spent most of my life. And that was something that was one of my biggest passions when opening One Tom, was to create a culture where my employees wanted to be a part of it. They felt valued and important. But I think it was really difficult to make the shift from, you know, understanding necessarily what my role was, right? I had to be a lot tougher than I maybe was in the past. There were some decisions that I had to make that I necessarily didn't want to make, but they were all necessary. And then just kind of really guiding those people through this whole process. And really being kind and caring through the entire thing that was going on, because there was a lot I didn't know that I was doing while it was happening. It was all so new for me.
Right.
But I think that, one of the most important things to me was recognizing the sacrifice that all these employees make in our day-to-day businesses, because we are an emergency-based business. It's a lot more than just a 9 to 5 that normal people work, and really integrating that into the company and realizing that, the two most important things are how much I pay these people, and then also the culture that they're a part of, because they spend more time here than they really spend with their families, right? But I needed to pay them really, really well, which I do. I pay my guys more than anybody else in town, and I know that for a fact. And then I really needed to care about them, and what they were doing in their lives and their dreams and what they wanted to accomplish. That was something that was really important to me.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And I love to hear you say that, like you're putting pay and culture like in the exact same breath. Because it really is that important. And most people that we have on the show, typically they kind of shy away from the whole pay thing, and what they're paying. They kind of brush it off as in, yeah, well, it's kind of important, but they don't really commit to really putting that at the top of their list. And they always default back to the company culture thing. But then again, like, top talent deserves top pay, and they need to feel like they're not stressed, and that you want to have a happy team member walk into the doors and just get ready to pound the day out, because they know that, if they have to pay a bill, like they're covered. If they need to take their family out to, a family dinner, that they're covered, that they're not stressed. Now, of course, regardless of how much money, like, there's always people that can live outside of their means. That's a totally different debate, but just doing the best that you can in your area to pay people the most is so important. How has that factor, in combination with company culture and just really having let's call it even like a feminine touch, a human touch, as part of the culture, how much has that impacted the quality of candidate that you're actually attracting to your organization?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's something special that I bring to the table because I am a woman and I can care in a different way and I can connect with my guys in a different way. Because I interpret things differently because I'm female. And one of the things that I really try to do is care about their family. And take that a step further. We talked about earlier where when I would have guys on the road, I'd love to send flowers to their wives or, whatever it may be. But it's changed the fact where,
Let's take a step back for a second. Let's clarify why you're sending flowers to their wives. We need some context.
So I had always been known to, if I had guys that were on the road and it was their wife's birthday or an anniversary or something like that, and they were sacrificing to be on the road to make money for this company, even before it was my own, I would send flowers to their wives to thank them for the sacrifice that they were making in supporting their husbands. We have just for instance, we have a company barbecue coming up in just 2 weeks where we're going to take all of our guys down. We're going to bring our boats down, all their wives and kids. And it's all about, we're literally going to shut the phones down for an entire day. And it's literally just about spending time with each other and getting to know each other, because I want to know what their wives' dreams are. I want to know what their kids want to do, because I want to be the catalyst that makes that happen. Money is what brings those guys in the door. It's what attracts them to say, hey, I want to start an opportunity with One Tom. But what keeps them here and what makes them want to grow with us and make this company better along with us is us caring about their lives and dreams and passions. And that goes so much further than just the individual that works for me, but it's really about the family that surrounds that individual as well.
So, typically I have all of my guests fill out the onboarding form, and you and I were talking about the onboarding form, which is just kind of, some ideas about where we're potentially where we may take this podcast conversation and whatnot. And I mentioned to you that no one since we implemented this onboarding form has ever mentioned these two particular things. And the question was three questions that you wish more business owners asked if they wanted to be successful, right? Like, what are the top three things that people should be asking themselves as they enter the world of business? And as I'm reading this before we even got on the show, I was like, wow, that's an amazing perspective. And this is exactly why, in my opinion, every restoration company, I think that every company, period, especially if they're dealing with customers, and if we're dealing with something as emotional as a devastating event, whether that's a flood or whether that's, mold or whatever, what have you, every company should definitely have in their executive team a female that is offering this perspective. And you mentioned basically three questions, which are, can my family handle this? And is my spouse prepared for this? And am I really willing to put in the work, or do I just want the glory? Expand on those three questions and your methodology, your thinking behind those.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, one, can my family handle this? I don't have children myself, but my business partner does, right? He has 3 young kids. In my instance, it's more about my family truly helped me get here when I needed plumbers, when I needed extra people. They were here, they were ready to go. And that helped me. That was a huge help to get me to where I am. But you really have to, on the other side of that, when I speak about family, it's really more into my business partner because he has young children, right? And it's, are your kids and your whole family structure able to take on that sacrifice? Because it is a sacrifice. And if it's not something that's talked about in the very beginning, it's something that you constantly will kind of butt heads on. And because you always feel like, and it'll be an internal fight with yourself, right? That you're not either making it 100% where you need to with family, or you're not making it 100% where you need to with business. And so it was really important because family is so important to me. Even though, like I said, I don't have kids of my own yet, that was something that, we talked about before we got this started, because I knew what a huge undertaking this was going to be. And then, if your spouse is, the second, if your spouse is ready, I will say that unequivocally, the reason why we have been so successful is because of our spouses. I told a story about how when Kevin and I first said that we wanted to do this, we literally picked up the phone and called our husband and wife and told them, you're going to quit your jobs. Sorry, I get emotional.
That's great.
We said, you're going to quit your jobs, like literally give up your dreams. We don't care what they are. And they weren't this dream, and you're going to come do this with us. And they didn't even hesitate, right? They just did it. And it is one of the reasons why we have been so successful. It is such a blessing, right? We get to work with our spouses every day. I think people go, oh my gosh, how could you do that? Like, how could you not do that? That's your spouse. Like, that's the person you're supposed to go to war with. And I get to go to war with them every day, and they're my partner. Like, it's amazing, So you definitely have to prepare them for that. And then knowing that, like, there's a lot of other people that look at us and say, hey, how'd you do it in a year? Well, there was no secret sauce. The secret sauce was I got dirty. When we needed somebody to cut concrete, my ass was out there cutting concrete. When we needed a hole dug, Chelsea, who's all of 110 pounds, Kevin's wife, was out there digging a hole. When we needed extra technicians, my husband, who at the time hadn't quit his job yet, was working his regular job and after hours to make it happen. But it was a sacrifice. And because of that, we got here. But it wasn't because we sold the most. It wasn't because we were the prettiest plumber or the this or that. It was literally just because we worked our ass.
Yeah. So you weren't an executive princess. Like, you were actually rolling up your sleeves and getting out there and doing what you had to do.
But just know I always have a manic. Okay.
Yeah. That's great. That's great.
Always.
Love the sense of humor. That's great. But just know, for the record,
if there's dirt on them, they're at least painted with dirt on them.
Fair enough. And talk about the other aspect of that, which is, really putting in the work or wanting the glory. Like, really dig into that. I feel like there's like so much more to unpack.
So, you have to put in the work, to get the glory. And it has to be like the hard work, not just the running around the job site, running it, or, answering the phones or doing the stuff that like the more managerial type things. You have to get in with your guys. You have to dig the holes. You have to pull the lines. You have to run the equipment to earn their respect. I remember in the very beginning, we had a group of guys that would barely do anything for us because they just thought that we were a bunch of assholes that owned a plumbing company that didn't know their
Yeah, you can go ahead and do it.
Yeah. And getting out there and actually getting dirty and taking the on-call jobs and doing the things that a lot of people wouldn't do as a business owner is what truly made us, successful. There was never a call that came in the middle of the night when my guys were tired that I didn't take. And, a lot of times it was out there. Myself and my husband, I think he actually spent his 30th birthday at a bar unclogging a sewer drain. So, it was just...
So that, talk about a plot twist. He spent his 30th birthday at a bar. Wait, but he wasn't drinking. He wasn't celebrating. He was unclogging toilets. Right.
Yeah. And it was, I remember afterwards, we actually took a video of ourselves. It was like the happiest day of our lives, but I think there's a lot of people that could look at that and say, I spent my 30th birthday unclogging a sewer drain. And we looked at it as, I spent my 30th birthday unclogging a sewer drain. Like, I am forever grateful for this. This is one of the best moments of my life, and we're just going to keep working and until we can, sit back and relax. That was something that we just kept going.
And I love that. So what I'd like to do is I want to give, I've brought Rocky onto the show and his son, Cameron, onto the show, One Tom onto the show quite a few times to talk about the One Tom plumber experience. And then you kind of did a cameo based on one of our episodes based on a comment that was floating around on Facebook and that we wanted to address. And that was the first time that you and I actually had any interaction. And I just loved your story. I loved where you come from. I love, the overall journey into getting into the business and how you were in the restoration business, but as an employee, and how you really didn't start any of this. Like you didn't have a restoration company that was your own and then bolted on One Tom Plumber. Your methods were a little unorthodox by how I think most people look at the business. And the reason why I keep bringing One Tom onto the show and some of their franchisees onto the show is because, number one, I really, out of all the business models that I've seen within the arena, and I've spoken to tons of great entrepreneurs, all you dominators know that I've brought you some of the best within the industry. Out of all of the high-level executives that I know that really have their shit together, it's definitely Rocky and Cameron over at One Tom, and just the business model makes sense to me right from day one. And as an individual that wants to see the industry grow and know the growing pains and the ups and downs of being a restoration business owner, I want to give you the tools that you need in order to bolt things onto your business that you could actually start doing today, or at least start laying the groundwork so that you can have a successful business. So what I want to talk about now here with you is to really share that journey and how fast your life turned around. Because there's what you've accomplished in a little bit over a year is what most have tried to accomplish over the course of 3, 4, 5, sometimes in some cases, even 10 years. So would you mind sharing a little bit of that journey and just looking back hindsight with the experience that you have from being an employee at another company, managing a huge book of business, knowing what you know now, how easy has this journey really been by comparison to how difficult it could have been if we would have gone a more quote unquote traditional route? But before you answer that, let's just take a quick moment to thank our amazing sponsors. Dominators, let's face it, your company will make it or break it on the backs of your estimating team. But if we're honest here for a second, what tools have you actually given them to succeed? The Actionable Profile is the newest tool inside of your estimator's toolbox, or at the very least, it should be. The Actionable Xactimate Profile is a data-driven solution that provides real-time estimating guidance on the fly. It checks for both overages, omissions in your estimates in real time, leading your team to having much more accurate scopes each and every single time that they're writing an estimate. Avoid any kind of potential conflicts with the adjuster and ensure that your estimates include every single warranted line item with the Actionable Xactimate Profile. Get your free demo today. If you head on over to value.getinsights.org/dominate, we've got an amazing offer for you. Again, head on over to value.getinsights.org/dominate and get your free demo today. Are you dominating the insurance agent referral market? If you're not getting referrals from insurance agents, then let me tell you something. You need to speak to Jerry Edel. Are you ready to grow? Can your business actually handle it? Well, Jerry Edel is a specialist at referral revenue from insurance agents. He started way back in the 70s as a restoration technician, and 34 years later ended up as the national sales trainer for one of the largest restoration franchise companies in the good old US of A. And for the past 16 years, he's been helping restoration contractors succeed at creating long-term referral revenue from insurance agents. So schedule a call with Jerry today. Let him guide you through your growth process so that you don't grow yourself out of business. All you have to do is go to jerryedel.com/dominate. Again, that's Jerry, GERRYEDTL.com/dominate. Hey Dominators, one claim can improve your profitability and accelerate your cash flow while focusing more on what matters most, which is running your business. They know that managing insurance billing and collections on disaster mitigation jobs can be painful. And listen, dealing with adjusters that are always pushing back on your claims documents, carriers that delay their payments for months on end, and your team spends a ton of time and effort only to get suboptimal outcomes most of the time. But over at One Claim, they know how to work with adjusters and how to justify and settle your claims. Their team of attorneys are well-trained claims advocates, and they have experience in regulations, policies, and all the laws that pertain to disaster mitigation, as well as homeowners insurance. They know all the ins and outs and leverage that expertise to increase your overall collections on disaster mitigation work. They work also with proprietary software systems that enable their claims advocates to push your invoices through the carrier's billing process quickly. They pride themselves on insurance leading processing times. Go ahead and contact them today for a free consultation. If you head on over to oneclaimsolution.com/dominate, you can go ahead and pop in your information and get your free consultation today. Again, that is oneclaimsolution.com/dominate. I want to let you in on a little secret, and that's the number one reason why businesses don't sell is that the owners a lot of times don't even realize that they need a plan for the actual sale of the business. And before you can start working on increasing the value of your business, you need to determine what's necessary to even have a sellable business. This is where Restoration Brokers of America can really help you begin to plan the overall exit process and ensure that you obtain the maximum value for your business. You've worked hard to build it. Now let RBA work hard to sell it. If you want more information, visit sellmyrestorationbusiness.com. Once again, that's sellmyrestorationbusiness.com and get on the fast track to getting the most for your business. Hey Dominators, quick question. Are you looking to attract top industry talent? Well, I'm here to tell you that Weilander is the go-to recruiting company in order to attract the best talent available inside of the restoration arena, period. Now, why do I say that? Well, simple. With over 1,000 placements, and more importantly, with experience in all 50 states, as well as in good old Canada, Weilander is going to be able to find the right fit for you and your company. Weilander not only has the expertise, but more importantly, they already have the connections to make sure that they find that perfect fit for you and your organization. So listen, we all know that time is money. So stop wasting time just sifting through resume after resume and let Weilander do the heavy lifting for you. Get back to what it is that you're good at. Get back to money-making activities. Call Weilander today. Let them help you find that next superstar in your organization. All right, Dominators, we're back. So now we're at the crossroads of talking about the journey. So Coral, take it away.
Well, to be quite honest with you, I always wanted to be a business owner, but I was terrified. And one of the reasons I was terrified is because of the industry that I chose, which is restoration, right? And we all know that there are super high highs, but there are even lower lows. And I was not prepared for that. I wasn't prepared to go through the lows. I could deal with the highs, but not the lows, financially, emotionally, either or. And when I saw the One Tom Plumber opportunity, it felt to me like it could fill the gaps. And so that was one of the things that we sat down and kind of started to analyze. And Kevin and I really looked at that and saw it as a constant cash flow of business, right? It was something that people needed all the time. It's something that people can connect with. Everybody knows who a plumber is. Everybody knows when they need a plumber. There's some people that don't even know what restoration or mitigation is.
Yeah,
I
I
think
was one of
one
those
of the most,
people. We were talking off camera. Like I was one of those people before I entered the space. I was like, what's mold remediation? What's water mitigation? Like what is any of this stuff? Like I had never even seen one of the restoration trucks on the road just because it was never on my radar. So those people
Yep.
are definitely out there.
And how often do you hear like, oh, like Serve Pro,
Yeah.
because that's
Yeah.
that's the only thing that
Wait,
people
can
know
you
if they know
can
anything.
on the count of three, can you say that company name again? 1, 2, 3.
Serve Pro.
Every time I was like, block them out. Anyways, but yeah, those people are definitely, there's tons of people out there that just don't know what mitigation or mold, but everybody has an understanding of a plumber and what they do and when they need them.
Absolutely. And so it was like this immediate business that I felt like I could literally go out and tell people, hey, do you need a plumber? Do you have a leaky faucet? Do you need an unclogged drain? And we could immediately start turning cash. And that's exactly what we did. When we first opened July the 1st, I had, I think, 2 technicians at the time, and we did almost $100,000 in our first opening month. It was crazy. We were, we could barely keep up. We were growing so fast, and then to then have the restoration that one is either produced from the plumbing or 2 gives you the opportunity to walk in the door, that then happens is just like icing on the cake, which is great because we also know it's really hard to get paid in that industry too, right? So plumbing, it's not. It is black and white. I'm net maybe 90 days on commercial. And that's just because, obviously you have to go through that whole transaction, right? But residential, that's immediate cash. So every single day, my guys are pulling in cash, which continues to allow the business to run and flow, where then I can go out and pick the clients that I want to do the restoration for that I know pay me.
And the beauty is repeat business. The likelihood of, so one of the things that I constantly talk about on the show is marketing, lifetime value, continuously marketing to the people that you already serve. And for whatever reason, our industry believes, which nothing could be further from the truth, our industry believes that if you do a water mitigation project or you do a mold remediation project or a fire or something like that, that you really shouldn't continuously remarket to that particular homeowner and or business owner because the likelihood of them ever having another loss is slim to none. In my opinion, I think that that's a very stupid way to look at it because they may have another loss. They just don't remember who you are. And since you never followed up with them, like they're not going to call you, they're going to call somebody else. Like, why would you spend more money trying to acquire new clients all the time? So that's number one. But then number two, on the plumbing side, that's totally different story. The likelihood of you needing more plumbing services as the years go on, like the likelihood is so much greater. So now what you have is you have this opportunity to be front of mind with your customer, to be in their home multiple times. And maybe it's a small toilet leak, right? Maybe something that doesn't even merit a water mitigation. But guess what? Now your company is out there, like they understand like who you are. Like they're almost, like trained to dial that phone number.
Trust you.
Exactly. So long term, like that really makes, even from an entrepreneur standpoint, just when you're talking about profitability, but then also maintaining your sanity, knowing that you have a business that is a little bit more in demand, like that's kind of like part of the equation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's something that, people need all the time, right? And it's something they understand that they need, that you're not constantly having to sell to them. And it's intimate to them. So they feel that same level of connection that you do when you're doing the restoration, right?
Right.
But it's just, in a place where it's not as risky. And it allows us to really build a relationship with them before they're in that devastating situation,
Yes.
which could
Yes.
be a whole house flood, you
So
know?
I've always felt like the emergency response aspect of the restoration business is always, in my mind, I've always seen it as a bunch of vultures. And I know that we are not that, but when you look at it just solely from the perspective of the limited pool of losses that are happening at any one time, right? There's a
Mhm.
finite pool of that's happening at any one time. And all of these companies, right, they're kind of like circling around for the person who just had this devastating event. I mean, you could probably find something cuter than a vulture, but that's kind of what it feels like when you
Yeah.
zoom out far enough, right? You're there's a finite number of people that are having an issue, and then a bunch of companies that are all after that exact same loss. I would much rather, and I think that it's a much smarter business move long term, right? We all have to be vultures in the beginning, right? Knock on doors and shake hands and put on our best faces and go ahead and earn that business. But the goal should be to take those individuals, take those homeowners, take those business owners, take those prospects and put them into your own pond, if you will, right? And just let them be in your pond. They don't need your service. They don't need you. They don't really care about you, but you're still continuously marketing to them. They know that you're there. And in the event now that they have an issue because you've been filling up this pond, right? Now in the event that they have these issues, now they're not going to call. They're not going to go onto Google. They're not going to go to any other company. They're going to pick up the phone and they're just going to call that one person. So immediately what you've done is you've gotten rid of all the competition.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so many property managers come to us and say, "Oh my gosh, you do plumbing and restoration? Like I can call you for one thing." And we're
Yep.
like, "Yes." They love it, especially in the, not even just the residential aspect, but the commercial aspect, because they're
Mm-hmm.
looking for, the easy button, right?
Yep.
Always looking for the easy button. And so, yes, it makes the whole process so much faster. And how many times as restorers are we all sitting around waiting on the plumber?
Right.
You know?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly
having
right.
me,
Yeah.
waiting on the plumber to get there because their emergency is not the same as our emergency. It's just
Mm-hmm.
two different levels, and so we brought that level of emergency from the restoration industry to the plumbing industry, which makes us, such a huge differentiator in what we do.
I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
bringing it, and that's an amazing perspective too, right? Like the degree of how we treat the emergency, bringing that into the plumbing world, right?
Mm-hmm.
That fast response, and then also just the lens through which you're looking at is different
Correct.
because now you're looking at it through the restorer lens. How many times haven't we, been, in a homeowner's, home, and they just recently had a plumber there, and the plumber didn't make any recommendations on proper mitigation, on mold, and they just tore up the stuff, and you're like sitting there, you're like, this was all bad. This is all bad. And now
Mm-hmm.
as a restorer, you're kind of having to go back and clean up somebody else's mess. But the other thing, and the most interesting thing for me is if we're all in business, and let's just concentrate on the restoration side of things. We're all in business, and we all know that we have to go out and develop business relationships, right? And the majority of the people know that the gatekeeper to your money happens to be the plumber, right? That's why there's tons of people out there that say, hey, pay a plumber 500, pay him 1,000, pay them 1,500. And pretty soon it'll be 2,000, 2,500 until the point where it's just like, it's like, that's going to be like a dead business model, right?
Yeah.
So if you already know that that's the game that you're playing and that's the game that everybody else is playing, just get in front of that traffic. Just, fill that void. Don't, if you are going to call a plumber, you could just call your other cell phone, I guess, right? Like just call your other company. Like that would be like the best solution. And, numbers wise, I mean, you've done amazingly well just on the plumbing side. And then, that's fueled business to your restoration arm, of which and we were kind of talking about a little bit about this off camera, and I don't know how much detail you want to share, but basically you started the One Tom Plumber and the restoration company. They were pretty much side by side, right? This was like a simultaneous startup, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you didn't have a benchmark on one side or another. It was, basically two brand new businesses that you basically started up. But now the way that I understand it is really the cash cow, the cash flow leader has been the plumbing side, the One Tom plumbing side of the business. And then as that funnels money to your restoration arm, that's kind of like you're reinvesting money. That's your
Yeah.
growth, right? Is that right? Can you
100%.
expand on that?
Yeah, 100%. So I get a consistent cash flow with the plumbing side where even in residential, it's as quickly as immediately that I'm collecting money every day, which keeps the function of the business moving forward, right? And then I'm able to go on, take those very selective restoration clients that I've decided to work with because I'm able to do that, right? And then able to do jobs for them where that's just the money that we're then buying equipment, new trucks, we're buying additional territories, all of those kind of things is happening with that restoration side. But really the driving force is the plumbing because it's such an easy market to captivate so easily, quickly. You will look at the plumbers around you. Most of them are wearing shorts. They're writing things on pen and paper. They're not taking photos.
Yes.
They're not out there 24/7. They don't come out on a Friday night, all of these things. And so bringing that whole restoration world to the plumbing industry, bringing that whole service promise along with it, and then performing a really great service that is better than all of the other people keeps that business coming in and then allows us to go out and do the other business that we want to do that really, makes us some good money.
What do you think the main difference is? I know that we've kind of covered a few of these points, but what do you think the main difference is between the approach that One Tom now has, as it relates to the overall presence and technology, as opposed to the average plumber that's out there? And what I guess the better question would be is how do you think customers perceive the level of professionalism and how you guys show up as opposed to any other plumber?
They 100% appreciate it. If we thought the restoration industry was rough, come look at plumbing. It is 10
Yeah.
times worse. I never thought that it was this bad until I got into it. The fact that something we hear constantly is, oh my gosh, you answer your phone. I think everybody in
Yes.
restoration is, like, oh my gosh, like you don't answer your phone. There are so many plumbers that don't answer their phones, don't call people back, don't show up for appointments on time. They're in ripped t-shirts. I mean, it really, even all down to the way we perform the service, how we document the service that we're performing, it is so different than the guy that's next to you that it's so easy to stand out. And the customers appreciate it and have wanted it for so long. But it just hasn't been out there. And I'm sure in some larger cities, you may find some competition who has refined themselves a little bit better, but it's not a hot industry and it's not what people are really focusing on, and you have to take into account that, my average ticket went from, working $1 million jobs to my average ticket's $550. So you have to wrap your head around that piece, but it's a consistent $550 that I always get paid on the full 550, not 500, which is what we always see in restoration,
Yeah. You submit a 550 invoice. All of a sudden you're getting 450. That's like, right.
Yeah.
You're taking a haircut
like
even before you get started.
Yeah, I might as well just call you and ask you to bill it for me and I'll just take whatever you give me kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much. That's a good perspective. What outside of like what I've asked you, I mean, if, you were speaking to, a couple of thousand of your closest friends and, fellow restorers, what do you wish that they knew and what kind of action do you wish that they would take knowing what you know now and how your life has changed and how you've been able to grow, not only one, but like two wildly successful businesses, all just shy over a year. What would your message be?
I think if you're that person that's, sitting in a truck or, on a job site working for somebody else, and you've always known in yourself that like, I can do more, you're a worker, you're a pusher, I like to say, do it. I was so scared for so long. I gave myself so many reasons why I couldn't do it. And I will say that one of the most freeing moments of my life was just jumping off that cliff, right? believe in yourself, go and do it, and just continue to work hard if you have it in you. And you will be successful. I think there's somebody, I think it's Grant Cardone, that says it right now, that, the people that are in their 30s right now, if you will just work your butt off for the next 10 years, you will be so far ahead of anybody else, because they're just sitting around playing video games right now,
Yep.
and just if you feel like you can do it, take the risk, go out there and do it, because it's worth it. And sometimes I look back and I say, I wish I would have done it 5 years ago. And there's other times that I go, I really wish I didn't do it 5 years ago, because I wasn't ready. But jump off that cliff, because it 100% is worth it. And if you can jump off that cliff with One Tom Plumber, even better,
And what about to the, I could, for some reason, after you said that, all I could think about is somebody in a truck right now, driving, business owner, project manager, whatever. And then like the guy next to him that just started, he's like, okay, I guess I'm losing this guy. But okay, so now, the message for actual business owners, right? The guys that are already have, that have a restoration company, they've gone through the pains. They've gone through the pains of trying to build a successful business. And they know the ups and downs that are related to it. What would your message be to them?
There's an easier way. There's a 100% easier way to do this. I struggled for a long time that I was a restorer and not a plumber, because that's something that I held really close to my heart. And I realized that doing the plumbing is just making me a better restorer, a more profitable restorer, able to help my clients more consistent. It definitely, it changed my life 100% for sure. And it can be easier. The industry that we work in is so much of the gray area. It's nice to operate in an area that's very black and white, but is also very complementary to what we do. It's, they sit hand in hand.
Do you feel that it adds some of the sanity that used to exist in the restoration arena? Do you feel that it adds that sanity back in to kind of level the playing field a little bit?
100%. I mean, how often do we go out and do a really great job and even document it well, communicate with our client, and they just look back at you and say, not paying you? That happens all the time to guys, and there's just nothing they can do about it. The plumbing, definitely, you feel like a hero. You feel like you feel on the good jobs, right? Which is a great way to feel in restoration, but we just don't get it all the time. You feel that way all the time with the plumbing. And it's such a space that people haven't paid attention to, that you're so different and you can offer such a value to your customer, because they have been dealing with a guy before you that was just an animal, really.
Yeah. That's awesome. Let's switch gears a little bit, and let's talk about some of the life-changing books that you would recommend for people to read, or that have really caused an impact in your life.
Definitely Atomic Habits. That's a really good one. That's
a great one.
Huge fan of Atomic Habits. There's, I think it's how many no's, or just say no to sales, or something like that. But it's all about how many no's you get in sales, which is basically, if you'd rather get 100 no's than 20 yeses, because that 100 no's is 100 opportunities to go get 100 yeses, kind of thing.
Yes.
I can't remember the name of that book. And one I was actually just reading yesterday, related to the restoration industry, is Pay Up by Chip Merlin. That's a good one.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending the time here with us today and hanging out and sharing your amazing story. For all those dominators out there, I am going to leave links in the video description as well as in the show notes. If you wanted to go ahead and get in contact with Coral, if you want to go ahead and find out more about her story, if you want to find out more about One Tom Plumber, all of that information is going to be in the video description below. Again, Coral, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate it too.
And Dominators, make sure that you check out those links. And as always, hustle, hack, dominate. I will catch you guys on the next one.
You've been listening to Restoration Domination, your #1 resource for tips, tricks, and hacks to help your business grow. Subscribe to our channel and follow us for more restoration domination. And follow our host at Rico Garcia Jr. on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Till next time, this is Restoration Domination. Hustle, hack, dominate.